Welcome to episode 11 of Police News TV for the second week of April 2012. Hello, I'm your host, Paul Balmer. Coming up, 4 cops shot in a Brooklyn gun battle. Sanford police car shot up. North Carolina police chief can't seem to shoot straight. A 5-year-old brings heroin to school for show and tell. These police news stories, some dumb criminals, and more. Give us 15 minutes and we'll give you some informative and entertaining police scoop. Police News TV, your TV news source for national law enforcement news by cops, for cops, starting now. At the top of our police news, a vest saves a cop in a shootout, Memphis, Tennessee. On April 6, Memphis uniformed patrol officers were flagged down by a man who told them that he had been carjacked 2 days before and that he just spotted his car in a nearby apartment complex. Officers pulled into the complex and saw the suspect, and he attempted to flee, engaging the officers in a pursuit. It didn't take long for him to run off the road and into some bushes where he bailed and headed into the nearby woods. The 2 officers then continued their chase on foot. As one of the Memphis officers encountered the suspect, he shot the officer, striking his ballistic vest. The officer returned fire, hitting and wounding the perp. The suspect, in critical condition, and the 30-year-old Memphis officer, who's expected to be okay, were still both in the hospital as of Wednesday. Here's Jill with some more news.
Thank you, Paul. Hello, I'm your co-host, Jill Adrian. 5 African Americans shot in shooting spree, Tulsa, Oklahoma. During the early morning hours of April 6, 5 black males were shot in separate shooting incidents in Tulsa. 3 of the victims later died. A large manhunt and investigation began to find the serial killer or killers, and on April 8th, police arrested 2 white males in connection with the shootings. Tulsa PD reported that the suspect cruised around a predominantly African American side of Tulsa and randomly called black males up to their vehicle, supposedly asking for directions. As the victims attempted to assist with the directions, the 2 suspects shot them in cold blood. Reportedly, both perpetrators have confessed to the police, and each are being held on a $9 million bond. Each is expected to be charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder and 2 counts of shooting with intent to kill.
4 cops shot in a fierce Brooklyn gun battle. NYPD officers were dispatched to a call concerning a male waving a gun at movers he was arguing with. As police arrived on the scene, the gun-wielding suspect, Naquan Foxworth, 33, ran back into his apartment holding his pregnant girlfriend and young son at gunpoint. As emergency service unit members arrived and hostage negotiators, the girlfriend opened the apartment door and ran for dear life with her 4-month-old baby in hand to the police. As officers entered the apartment, the suspect opened fire. Hey, you joke about the 7 and 15-yard lines at the range? Well, this was definitely a close combat situation with everyone no more than 10 feet apart. The perp shot at the cops about 12 times with his Browning 9mm. Officers returned fire. However, 4 ESU members were hit. The suspect was shot in the abdomen. Later, the investigation found that the suspect had a whole cache of illegal weapons, including a fully auto Mini 14 and armored piercing bullets. Foxworth has prior convictions for attempted murder, robbery, and drug sales. The 4 NYPD ESU officers shot were Detective Michael Keenan, 52, struck in the left calf, Detective Kenneth Ayala, 49, shot in the thigh and left ankle, Officer Matthew Granahan, 35, shot in his left calf, and Captain Al Pisano, 45, who was grazed on his face. All officers were treated at the local hospital, and earlier this week, the final of the 4 officers were released from the hospital. The suspect remains in critical but stable condition. Jill?
Paul, a suspect dives out the 4th-floor window, Fort Collins, Colorado. Larimer County Sheriff's deputies went to the home of a 22-year-old Colorado man in order to arrest him on a charge of misdemeanor assault. Deputies knocked on his 4th-floor hotel room door, and Kyle Wayne Siri of Fort Collins tried to evade them by jumping out the window. Deputies were then able to capture the suspect because he broke his ankle and sustained other injuries as a result of the jump. Siri was taken to the hospital for treatment. That's one giant leap for dumb criminals.
Sanford police car shot up. I'm sure you've all heard about the Zimmerman case here in Florida, but did you hear about the marked police cruiser that was shot up while parked near the townhouse community where Trayvon Martin was killed? The cruiser had 2 bullet holes and neighbors reported hearing at least 6 gunshots. This was in the early morning hours of April 10th. Now, fortunately, the police car was not occupied and was parked in the area to help with police visibility because of all the tension in the community over this incident. This may just be coincidence, but the new Black Panther Party called for a day of protest and day of action the day before this incident occurred. Their Tampa Chief of Staff, Michelle Williams, in her April 7th radio address, publicly called for a day of violence. Williams, who expressed disappointment that Florida was not on fire, was quoted as saying, "Suit up for a race war and have to cause some blood." She goes on to say that my prize right now, this evening, is going to be the bounty, the arrest, dead or alive, for George Zimmerman. You feel me? I don't know about you, but I have trouble seeing a dead man being arrested. Luckily, there were no further violent incidents. Protesters did block the doors to the police station, causing its closure for a while, but otherwise it was peaceful. Governor Scott appointed a special prosecutor, Angela Corey, who first announced that she was not taking the case to the grand jury. Yesterday at 6 p.m., Corey announced, while praising law enforcement agencies involved, that Zimmerman was in custody on second-degree murder charges. If convicted, he could face life in jail.
Chief wants new uniforms for increasing officer approachability. Santa Fe, New Mexico. Police Chief Ray Rael has formally requested that the city spend money to change the current traditional dark blue police uniforms to a light blue color. His reasoning is that, according to psychological research, the light blue colored uniform improves officer approachability. It also decreases negative emotions and feelings associated with dark colors, gives officers a professional look which has a marked effect on their attitudes and professional demeanor, and results in fewer complaints about police. Finally, Rael stated the new light blue uniform shirts would distinguish officers from other service-related fields, such as auto mechanics and security guards. Chief Rael also wants to move away from the current all-white cruisers and to phase in traditional black and white patrol cars. Needless to say, the Santa Fe Police Union does not agree with their police chief's idea and cites he should be spending money in other areas of greater concern, like crime fighting, instead of uniform colors.
Well, I guess every chief has his or her own issues, but what if they can't shoot? We all have to go to the range once or twice a year for our firearms qualifications, right? Well, in Richlands, North Carolina, the police chief, Thomas Bennett, recently had to take his agency's firearms qual. The only problem is, bless his heart, he failed. And now he can't carry a gun, can't wear the badge, can't turn on his chief's car emergency lights, even to stop a vehicle. In order to keep your Leo certification in North Carolina, you have to qualify with a minimum score of 70 out of 100. Bennett scored a 40, reportedly. He's been the town's police chief since 1999, and he plans to retire this July, possibly a good thing. He seems to think he can perform his duties still, though, as chief, despite all the restrictions. The Richlands Police Department has 6 full-time officers, 2 part-time and auxiliary officers. The town's about 1.2 square miles in size and has an estimated population just under 1,000 people. Chief Bennett has requested to take the firearms qualification exam again.
Boston cops quarantined after suicide call. 4 Boston cops and 2 EMS workers responded to the apartment of an unidentified female who had committed suicide. The woman had ingested a toxic chemical known as sodium azide, a chemical used to make airbags. The deceased woman most likely died about an hour or 2 after she ingested the toxic substance. But Boston Deputy Fire Chief Steve Dunbar said it can metabolize into some kind of cyanide. All the officers and EMS workers were taken to the hospital for treatment because of the exposure and are now quarantined. However, at this time, neither the officers nor the EMS workers quarantined appear to be showing signs of adverse reaction to the chemical.
Jill, speaking of chemicals and adverse reactions, here's a story out of Bridgeport, Connecticut about a 5-year-old with a very unusual show and tell. On April 9th, a 5-year-old boy went to his kindergarten class. As part of his school day agenda, the class had show and tell. We all remember show and tell. It was a lot of fun. So the boy, who was wearing his stepfather's jacket, reached down in and pulled out 10 small but interesting looking bags, each containing 5 folds of oh my, heroin to show his classmates. The boy's stepfather, 35-year-old Santos Roman, evidently realizing something was missing, went to the school frantically looking for his stepkid and his jacket. But it was too late. Bridgeport police had already seized the drugs. Roman was taken into custody and charged with risk of injury to a minor, possession of narcotics, sale of narcotics, and possession of narcotics within 1,500 feet of a school. He appeared Tuesday in Bridgeport Superior Court and was ordered held on a $100,000 bail. The Connecticut Department of Children and Families placed the boy in custody of his grandmother, even though his mother went to the school to take him home.
I can't imagine a child that young even knew what it was. Border Patrol agents seized 5 tons in 5 days. Edinburgh, Texas. U.S. Border Patrol agents seized an estimated $8.2 million worth of narcotics in the last 5 days in the area of Rio Grande Valley sector of Texas. One of the largest seizures happened on April 2nd, when agents observed several men loading a truck with bundles of marijuana. As agents approached, the driver of the truck attempted to abandon the load, but he was quickly apprehended. Agents found nearly 1,000 pounds of marijuana inside the vehicle. Another notable seizure took place on April 3rd near Roma, Texas. Agents on patrol encountered a traffic accident involving 2 vehicles. As agents approached to offer assistance, they observed bundles consistent with narcotics in one of the vehicles. The driver of that vehicle sped away when he saw the agents. After a brief search for the vehicle, with the assistance of the Roma Police Department, the driver and more than 900 pounds of marijuana were caught. Additional seizures throughout the area pushed the total amount of marijuana seized to more than 10,000 pounds. Good job, guys. In our ever-popular Dumb Criminal segment, motor vehicle stop leads to cattle rustling arrest. Evidence in back seat? New Mexico authorities have arrested 3 men found with a 220-pound calf in the back seat of their car. The men are accused of cattle rustling. They were jailed on charges of suspicion of larceny of livestock, conspiracy, lack of a bill of sale, and exporting livestock. Luna County Sheriff's Office says a deputy pulled over their Honda Civic on April 2nd for speeding and saw the animal sharing the back seat with one of the alleged thieves. Can you picture that? The 3 men, according to the LCSO report, work for a ranch in Sierra County. At first, the suspects told the LCSO they were allowed to have the calf, but later admitted they took it without permission. The 3 are being held at the Luna County Detention Center. They should have just said it was one of the Chick-fil-A cows doing work on a billboard out there. Come on.
Robber shows ID to store clerk, Xenia, Ohio. On March 30th, police say a robber showed his ID card to a store clerk before pulling a handgun out and demanding money from the register. Xenia police said Hanson Price, 21, showed his driver's license to the clerk at the local convenience store. You may wonder why he was sharing his ID before committing the robbery. Well, he did so because he was trying to purchase a Black & Mild cigar, and we all know that you can't do that without ID. So the genius paid for the 59-cent cigar with a dollar bill before pulling out his Luger 9mm, demanding the cash. The robber, who fled with $72, was soon arrested and the gun recovered. Price was jailed in lieu of a $100,000 bond and was charged with aggravated robbery with a firearm. If convicted, he could face a minimum of 3 years in prison. But if not convicted, he's got a stash of $47.50 that he's going to dig up somewhere and start a whole new life.
On a much sadder note, on April 6th, Austin, Texas PD senior police officer Jaime Padron was shot and killed after responding to a Walmart store to investigate reports of an intoxicated man who was shoplifting at approximately 2:30 a.m. Upon arrival, Officer Padron spoke with 2 employees and then tried to stop the man as he attempted to leave. The subject immediately attempted to flee on foot, but was tackled by Officer Padron, and both fell to the ground. During the ensuing struggle, the man produced a small handgun from his pocket, shot Officer Padron in the vest and neck, and then fired at the store employees. 2 Walmart employees tackled the suspect and held him down using Officer Padron's radio to notify dispatchers of the shooting. They held him down until responding units arrived and placed him under arrest. He was subsequently charged with capital murder. Officer Padron succumbed to his wound at the scene. Officer Padron was a U.S. Marine Corps veteran and had served with the Austin Police Department for 3 years. He had previously served with the Austin Airport Police Department and the San Angelo Police Department for 14 years. He was 41 years old and is survived by his 2 young daughters and parents.
Norfolk County Sheriff Deputy Ryan Tavalia on April 10th was killed on a motorcycle accident on I-95 in Walpole, Massachusetts. He was en route to Quincy to assist with a funeral detail for the mother of a fellow deputy. His department-issued motorcycle collided with a vehicle at approximately 7:40 a.m. He was then struck by a second vehicle, suffering even more injuries. He was transported to Norwood Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. Deputy Tavalia had served with the Norfolk County Sheriff's Office for 11 years. He is survived by his wife, daughter, and 2 sons. He was 42 years old.
All of us here at Police News TV really appreciate you taking the time to watch.
Police News TV, by cops, for cops. Now our goal is to deliver a quality, entertaining, informative, solid weekly broadcast to you, our fellow law enforcement officers. A new one comes out every Friday. And as far as we're concerned, sharing is caring. So please click that share button, like you see our producer doing right here, to create a linked post on your Facebook page, and so you can post it not just on your wall, but on your friends' walls too. If you have a different way that you're helping us share PNTV, please let us know.
We would like you to like us on Facebook, watch and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us on Twitter. Now remember, clicking like on YouTube is separate from clicking like on Facebook, though we'd like you to do both. There are different ways to watch and listen to PNTV. Check out our website, PoliceNewsTV.com, to watch the show and for links to the stories from our weekly episodes. If you have something you want us to share about your area or your agency, write to contact@PoliceNewsTV.com or call us at 727-437-2207.
This week's show is dedicated to Austin PD Senior Officer Jaime Padron and Norfolk County Sheriff Deputy Ryan Tavalia. May we never forget their sacrifice, and may we never forget to support and pray for their families. That does it for this time. To all of our brothers and sisters in blue out there, from Alaska to Puerto Rico, Maine to Hawaii, stay safe, look out for each other, and see you next Friday on Police News TV, where we've got you covered.
All right, that's it. Let's roll. And hey! Let's be careful out there.